Can AI improve your memory? The answer is yes, if you're using the right system, the memory palace. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to create your own memory palace to remember new words, idioms, things for work, information that you need, things you learn in books, whatever. And I'm also going to teach you how you can use AI to make your memory palace even more useful and effective. So what is a memory palace?
Get out.
What?
Get out. I need to go to my mind palace.
The what?
He's not going to be doing much talking for a while. We may as well go.
His what?
Oh, his mind palace. It's a memory technique, a sort of mental map.
To keep it simple, a memory palace is a place in your mind, in your imagination. Now, often, these are based on real places, a place that you know very well, your childhood home, or the school you went to, or the park where you walk every day. A place that you know really well. A place that you can visit in your mind, in your imagination. You can close your eyes and walk around there. It could be a completely imaginary place, but in my experience, and I've been using this technique for a long time, that's a little more difficult. I think it's much easier to use a place that you know really well, a real place. So let's say that you pick one specific place for idioms, English idioms that you're learning, vocabulary, or maybe you're reading a book and you want to remember important information from that book. So you pick a very specific place that you know in your hometown where you're going to put all of that information. This park in my hometown. And again, that's just an example. So once you have the place, you've chosen the place, what do you do next? Next, you need to put objects in the place. Objects? What kind of objects? Objects created with your imagination. Now, this is the part that takes practice. And I would say this is the difficult part. If it feels very difficult for you at first, just know that it gets easier. You get faster and faster at being able to create objects that you place in your memory palace. So what is an object? Well, it's called in a memory palace a locus. This is a particular place where you're remembering a specific thing. You're creating an object that includes this thing you're trying to remember and some way to remember it. Now, there's a special word for things that help us remember things. The word is a mnemonic. Think of a mnemonic like a memory aid. I'm going to give you an example. My father, he had to remember like 200 digits for some test that he had to take. He used this thing called the major system, which is connected to the memory palace idea, for remembering long strings of numbers, creating a story. We won't get into that. But it's a similar concept. You're creating visual things to help you remember information. He started teaching me creative ways to remember things I was learning as a child because he had learned that method. So when we were learning the states and their capitals, I remember very clearly one he taught me, Providence, Rhode Island, using something that sounds like Providence. Professor Dent's. Dents meaning a dent in something. So he said, imagine there's a rock and you throw a rock at this big professor who's standing there and it makes dents in his head every time you throw a rock. He has a bunch of dents in his head. Professor Dents. He's got dents in his head. It's very visual. It's easy to remember, right? Professor Dents sounds like Providence, so it's close enough to make me remember that. Now, that wasn't for a memory palace, but that's an example of a simple mnemonic. Now, this is very personal. Some people will use the first letter of every word in a group to make a new word to help them remember a phrase or something like that. If that helps, fantastic. Some people will create a very strange image that combines the thing that they know with the thing that they want to learn. A visual that's difficult to forget, maybe disturbing or strange, bizarre. The more bizarre, the better. The more strange, the better. Another classic example would be stalactites and stalagmites. So in a cave, there's the ones that go up from the floor and there's the ones that come down from the ceiling. I can never forget that. This is one that I think is just kind of there in English-speaking culture that everybody knows. It's stalactite, holding on tight to the ceiling. Oh, so those are the ones that come down. And stalagmites, those are the ones pushing up with all their might from the floor. So how can you now forget stalactites and stalagmites? You cannot. Well, that is a mnemonic. And there are many different types of mnemonics. We're not going to go over all of them. The point is, once you find the right one for the thing that you're trying to learn, you create that object, combining it with the thing you're trying to learn. This crazy visual of this professor with the dents in his forehead, reminding me of providence. And then you would take that once you've created it and place it in your mind, in your memory palace, somewhere. Walking next to a tree, right? In the middle of the lake, wherever. Now, some people create a specific path that you walk through. Personally, I'm not a fan. I like to just place things in the memory palace wherever I feel like they should be, and then I can find them when I need them. I don't do the path method. But you can set them up in a specific path and you walk the same path every time. I feel like that's a little bit less efficient. So now let's put this together for something like a phrase. Let's say you're learning English and you want to learn a particular phrase, an idiom. The idiom is the last straw. The last straw, which means I can't take it anymore. I have to do something, right? When you're really frustrated. So, the last straw. Well, the idea of the last straw being the thing that you put on the camel's back that breaks the camel's back, I think is where the last straw comes from. I think that's where it comes from, right? It's the last one you put on and then the camel's back breaks. I've always assumed that. Now I'm not sure if that's true. But the idea is very visual in itself. So I could use the camel. Maybe I can place a camel somewhere in this park in my childhood. Yes, there's a gazebo, and I'm going to put a camel in the gazebo, and there's going to be, let's say, a person. I could choose a specific person from my hometown who I know, placing a straw on the camel, and then I could get a little violent, but it certainly would be memorable. And I can visualize that last straw going onto a pile of straws. Maybe I want to go a different direction. So let's say you've got Oscar the Grouch from Sesame Street, very angry, very grumpy all the time. He's in his trash can, right? You're walking by, and the trash can is in the park. Suddenly, Oscar the Grouch pops out, and he starts throwing straws, like drinking straws, out from the trash can. And he's getting more and more angry each straw that he throws. And finally, he takes out the last straw, right? And as he takes out the last straw, he's so angry, so furious that his fur catches on fire, right? So weird, I know, very strange. I have a demented imagination. But hey, very memorable. Variations of this technique have been used for thousands of years, especially among cultures that have a strong oral tradition, stories being passed down, information, important survival information about the land, how to survive, what to do, being passed down from generation to generation, would often be passed down using basically mnemonic techniques. Okay, so we know how to create a simple mnemonic to remember something like the phrase, the last straw, whether you want to use Oscar the Grouch or a camel or something else. And we're placing these imaginary objects with the mnemonic to help us remember the thing in the memory palace. Now, this is one place AI comes in. If you're trying to create images and you find it quite exhausting to come up with an idea, then how about, say, I'm trying to learn these 10 things. My location is this. Give me, let's say, 3 very interesting, bizarre mnemonic ideas for each one. And then pick which ones work best, right? Or say none of these three work, try three more. You can kind of brainstorm mnemonics for creating a locus for your memory palace. Then you can take it one step further. You can create an image that includes your memory palace object. You have the object, the idea for the object. Upload a picture of that place. Let's say it's a park bench. Maybe it's not the exact park bench, but upload a picture of a park bench. And then say, add this object to the park bench. Or just say, put this object on a park bench in a green park, right? Or wherever it is. Now you have something to look at, and you can put it in, let's say, a folder to review occasionally. Yes, that isn't quite the point of a memory palace. The point of a memory palace is to keep it in your mind. But hey, it can be helpful to look through images. I sometimes do this. You can create these strange images and look through them, and it can be a helpful refresher. It can help reinforce the potency of your memory palace. Some purists will say, no, you can't do that. The memory palace has to be all here. You have to come up with it on your own. I think it's actually helpful to brainstorm and create images using AI, using something like ChatGPT, and that process too makes it stick better. Now, what if there's a number? This is an interesting part here. There's another branch of the memory palace technique called the PAO system. System? I think it's called the system. Person, action, object. This is where you want to remember things and numbers. It's a way of creating objects related to numbers that don't require you to really, from nothing, make something from your imagination, right? You're using pieces and parts that you already have. Basically, it works like this. For every 2 digits between 00 and 99, you assign a person, an action, and an object. So, for 00, maybe 00 reminds you of James Bond, 00, right? Maybe 07 would be James Bond. But that's up to you. You have to go through this process of creating all of these for the numbers 00 all the way through 99. Once you remember them, you only have to do this once, right? So let's say 00 is James Bond shooting a pistol. That makes sense, right? Or driving an Aston Martin. Something often related to that person. So whenever I need 0 or 00, I use James Bond or shooting or a pistol. So let me give you a specific example from my PAO system if we want to remember something that happened in a particular year. Let's say the Titanic sinking. When did it sink? 1912. Let's imagine you don't know that. So we have two numbers. We have 19 and 12. Well, my 19 is Conan O'Brien eating potatoes. That's my 19. That is the person, action, object that I have attached to 19. Conan O'Brien eating potatoes. My 12, 1912, my 12, that's a famous TV chef from, the 70s or 80s? Julia Child. Baking cupcakes. Julia Child baking cupcakes. So I've got 4 numbers I'm trying to remember, but they're actually just 2 groups of 2 numbers, 19 and 12. So I can be a little creative with this, but basically I'm going to either have Conan O'Brien or Julia Child. There's going to be one or the other action and one or the other thing. So what I'm going to do is Conan O'Brien baking cupcakes. Conan O'Brien, that's 19. Baking cupcakes, that comes from 12. But I'm going to do something a little bit special with the cupcakes. I'm going to visualize, and here is where visualization is very important and where you can use AI to help. I'm going to clearly visualize what I want to happen. It's Conan O'Brien. He's really intensely working on these cupcakes. Let's just say he's holding the cupcake and he's putting a Titanic ship in the cupcake, like it's a sinking ship. So I visualize Conan O'Brien. He's sitting on a park bench. He's putting a Titanic boat, sticking it into the cupcake. So I have everything I need. I've got the Titanic sinking. I've added that visual. I've got it in my memory palace. I've got Conan, which represents 19, and baking cupcakes, which represents 12. So I know the year, and I know what happened, and it's in my memory palace. Now, I can create that as an image, and maybe come up with one, do a few versions until I like it. That helps to reinforce it. Not just creating the image, but the process of creating the image, plus how I imagine it. Makes it a little bit richer, more interesting, more detailed. And now you can't forget when the Titanic sank. So this has been a fairly simple overview of the memory palace technique and how you can use AI to help you use it. I encourage you to try it out to see if it works for you if you haven't already. Let's keep it simple. One room in your house or apartment or wherever you live, tent, wherever you live. Now, pick 2 or 3 things that you want to remember. Make them the same kind of thing. So if you're working on your English skills, make it vocabulary words that you're trying to learn. If it's dates, something from a book, whatever, make it the same kind of thing. Then, for each one, brainstorm using ChatGPT. Play around with it until something sticks. It sounds like this, right? It reminds you of that. There's an interesting visual like Professor Dent's that makes it click. Something weird. Once you've come up with those 3 objects, place them in your mind. Place them in specific locations. Put them there. Really try to use your imagination and play around with making images of those things too, using something like the image generator of GPT-4o, or, they all make images, Google Gemini or Meta or Midjourney. Try to create some interesting, rich images to help those things stick. Wait a week. Don't do anything. Don't try to remember anything. Don't review again. Can you remember those 3 things easily after a week with no repetition? If you've done it correctly, the answer should be yes. That is why this technique is very powerful. It's powerful because, yes, it's hard work creating the image, creating the object, right? Building the mind palace. It's hard work, coming up with, if you use a PAO system, coming up with that system the first time. But once you've done that work, you start to get better at it. It gets easier. You only have to do it once. You don't have to study flashcards. You don't have to do all of this repetition, right? And crazy memory stuff just to make it stick. It sticks because you created this weird thing and it lives in your imagination. That is cool. So try it out and let me know what you think about the technique in general. Do you think this would work for you? If you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Get a free course in the links in the description. The 7-day challenge, very interesting challenge in the links in the description. And of course, the 90-day program, the best way to improve your English in 90 days. At the end, unlock a 1-year membership. That's right. If you finish it, you unlock a 1-year membership at no additional cost. 8 additional courses. It's a lot of additional material. And if you're not happy with your progress, at the end, you can get a full refund, no questions asked. So check that out, and I will see you in the next one.